Over to you, Navika.
Thank you very much. And today I have two scintillating women, achievers, women who've set new boundaries and new parameters on how success is defined. And my question to them tonight is only going to be one. Whenever I introduce women on a panel, and me being a woman as well, moderating the session, people say, ye thoda aurton wala panel hai. As I introduce Pallavi Shroff, she doesn't need an introduction. She heads the biggest law firm in the country, Shardul, Amarchand, and Mangal Das, and of course, Union Textiles, Women and Child Development Minister Smriti Irani. Pleasure to have you. I just want to ask you one question, Smriti Irani. The first question normally on such panels is, are you taken as seriously as your contemporaries and your colleagues in the field you're in politics, in terms of a strategic partner in politics?
I think that I've had the privilege of serving in two distinct professions, in media and in politics. And to answer your question bluntly, after my financial success in the media and my political success in Amethi, need I now explain whether I am strategically well-equipped? And any man or woman who seeks that answer from me, I think doesn't do a great disservice to my gender. I think that this is a challenge, not only women, but also men who do not come from very, very elegant or financially empowered means. They are bound to be faced with such questions. It is less to do with the gender, more to do with your economic disposition. Where does gender come in? Gender comes in, I think, when you are in a position of service and you have to execute authority. That is where you are many a times counseled to do it gently. But then authority knows no gender. Power knows no gender. Power knows outcomes. And I think that when, as an individual, you are focused particularly on outcomes, then maybe much is not forgiven about you. But at the end of the day, what matters is whether you can deliver. And if there's one thing that can be said about me, that yes, I have delivered.
Absolutely. After Amethi, who can question you on delivery, because that was the single biggest seat which had all the spotlight on it in the 2019 Lok Sabha elections. But let me come across to you, Pallavi Shroff. Pallavi Shroff, I want to ask you this question. As Smriti says, economic position that you come from, the power position that you come from, defines how people treat you. Have you had situations in your life, especially in boardrooms, in commercial litigation and the kind of cases you and your firm would be dealing with, where people think, you know, a woman, can she do the strategy as well as possibly a man? Have you ever come across some situations like that?
I have. And I think this was when I started my practice decades ago, I should say. Yes, I did come across a situation where acceptability with the client was an issue. And they were never sure whether they would come to me or wanted to go to another man in the office. And quite often they would say, can we go to Mr. Shroff? And I'd say no. And he would say, no, you go to her and she does it. You know, and yes, there was no choice. They had to come to me. So with, you know, when they see you that you are there, you find solutions to problems, you are there every morning, they have no choice, I think, but to accept. So long as you are clear with what you are speaking, what you are delivering, I think they realize they have to accept. Though I also want to say, I was told once by a client that when they used to come to meet me, they were a little nervous because they were dealing with a woman and they didn't know how things would go or how I would react or what I would do. So, but from that stage, when I started my career till today, I don't think there is any question of being accepted or, you walk into a boardroom, people accept you. You go to court, you are accepted.
But that's taken a long time.
It has taken a while. It has taken a while. And
So, Smriti, that's the question I want to ask you. Today, after Amethi, there is a different Smriti Irani, which is a Smriti Irani 2.0. Because, you've taken the toughest constituency, you've delivered a victory there. I want to go back to your early days. You were a success in the media, as you pointed out, but then you were a novice in politics when you entered politics. How's been your journey from that point of trying to make yourself or make your presence felt in the field of politics, and then from there on making your way to the point where today you are the Smriti Irani?
I think that if you look at what Ms. Shroff said, and between her enunciation and mine, one of the greatest challenges comes when you need to, like I said, exercise authority, or when you need to execute a particular plan or a strategy that you have surmised upon after due consultation with all your co-workers. I think that is where the gender power play comes in. One of the greatest challenges that I had when I came into politics was not that I was a woman, but because I was from the media and that I was young. I began my political career at the same time that I began my media profession. The only difference was that I carried the burden of being from the media field and not being serious enough, not being old enough. The fact that I was one of the youngest entrants was also a disadvantage. So the female disadvantage was the last on the rung of disadvantages. But I also feel that today, when I look back, what were the challenges? I had none, honestly. When I came into my first political position in the youth wing in Maharashtra, I went up to my seniors at that time. Gopinath Mundeji and Nitin Gadkari ji were in Maharashtra. And I said that I wanted to be tested on my potential. And they said, we've never had women leaders in the youth wing, district-wise. Can you find us those women if you think that they exist? And I said, absolutely, we will find them and position them in 6 months. We did. So it's not as if there is an absence of female potential in politics. I think what was the challenge was the recognition of that potential. So I, in my political life, have not been in any way been done a disservice to because of my gender. But yes, the challenges did accrue to me because I was an actor or because I was young.
So did they sort of say that, oh, you are Smriti Irani, who's done, more Saas Bahu serials, you can't do serious political strategy?
Well, I'm the only politician who had a previous career who's always, even today, as a cabinet minister, called an actor turned politician. There's nobody else. There's no lawyer turned politician. There is no doctor turned politician. There is only this one person.
So why do they say that? And have you questioned that?
There was a point when I did question it. And that point came when I became a policy maker. Because the shadow that was to be loomed on me was that I did not have enough gravitas to make policy. So when I began my administrative journey as the education minister in the country, to this day, the largest ever exercise of building the education policy in collaboration not only with state governments, but even with panchayats and citizens and academia began when I was the education minister. The fact that I could reach out to over close to 2 lakh village education councils, that was never done before. The fact that the country received its first national ranking framework for higher educational institutions, it was never there before. But how do you dismiss that potential? You can't dismiss it on the basis of gender because you had the media pounce back. So the only way you can dismiss it is by saying, she was an actor, possibly not evolved enough to make policy. So I think that the journey began with certain challenges. The idea was to embrace those challenges and to convert them into opportunity. So if you are looked upon as somebody who is disadvantaged from that perspective, you are happy to find people who are willing to support you or teach you or add to your potential. And I think I was very blessed that way. I had people in academics, in administration, in policy making, in politics, who said, does not matter how they look at you today, what matters is what you deliver upon. And I delivered.
Well, I have questions and I'll come back to that. But Pallavi, I want to ask you, is there a bit of patronizing attitude towards women when they actually come into a professional world and professional world as serious as yours, where you're talking about investments, you're talking about commercial success, you're talking about a lot of money at stake. And money is something that people, don't want to experiment on. They can experiment on anything else, but not money or investments that they've made. Do you think you had to face that?
I think in the good old days, if I would say, there may have been some skepticism about women lawyers. Can they deliver? Are they good enough? Can they argue in court? Because I'm a disputes lawyer. But I don't think that exists now. There are so many more women in the legal profession who've become even judges. Today, I don't face such skepticism. People come and ask for an opinion, and I respect it. So the journey, of course, one has to go through, as Smriti ji just said. And even when you talk of authority and power, I think what I have found in the profession is that if people respect you first as a professional, then when you come to exercise power, they are more willing to accept it than just if they don't respect you as a professional. So luckily,
you have to earn your respect.
You have to earn your respect. That I have realized that you have to learn, and you have to be relevant. Even if you have the power and the authority, you have to remain relevant in the profession.
So Smriti Irani, I want to ask you, at 38, the headline that you made when you were taken into the Modi cabinet, Modi himself was this celebrated icon who had come into New Delhi politics, and then the youngest woman cabinet minister at 38, Smriti Irani, and she was given the portfolio of HRD, Human Resource Development and Education, as a policy. But I want to ask you, there was a time when you had to move out of that position. There were all sorts of controversies around your moving out, on whether you could handle policy or not, whether you were good for that ministry or not, whether you were this firebrand who could get along with people or not. Do you think these were stories that just happened? Or do you think, it was one of those things that your own peer group sort of, when it's competing with you, does this kind of thing? Let's not be nice. Let's be original Smriti Irani and say it as it is.
I love the fact that you look for a headline in every session. And I think that's the editor in you. But there have to be some explosions that have to be limited to a book I write someday, possibly. But to be honest...
You have enough explosive material for many books and many panel discussions, so don't hold yourself back.
No, I think that one cannot deny that certain plants in certain newspapers happened because I was not polite enough when it came to saying no on issues which would have hurt the interests of our citizens. For instance, I think I've said this publicly once. When I became minister, I had a gentleman walk in who is an IIT director. He had broken the law. The law was that you cannot set up an international campus at the taxpayers' money and not accrue profits in dollars for yourself, not employ people out of rotation, violating all principles, violating all norms. I had caught this director with his hand in the cookie jar. He walked into my office and he said that if you do try to take action against me, I will ensure that there is enough hangama. You do not have the academic pedigree to challenge me. I did not listen to that gentleman. In fact, to a cabinet minister, I had that IIT director direct me in my office that you will shut the investigation against me. I said, no, that will not happen. He goes out, he calls up a fellow politician, and he says, Smriti Irani threatened me today that she'll throw me out of the window. And that politician calls me and says, "Aapne behan ji aisa kaha hai?" I said, sir, why don't you come to my office right away? That gentleman was absolutely distraught, sent an assistant instead, कि दीदी क्या बोल रही है जाके देखिए. मैंने कहा मेरे कमरे में एक भी खिड़की नहीं है. मैंने कहा लेकिन अगले हफ्ते उस सज्जन को लेकर लौटिएगा ज़रूर. In that 1 week, I ensured CPWD did make a window. The gentleman walked in a week later, and I said, पिछली बार तो कुछ नहीं कहा था, लेकिन निश्चित अगर अगली बार मुझे धमकी दी, तो ये रहा window, और मैं स्वयं आपको बाहर फेंकूंगी. So there have been many instances where plants will be made. It happens with women who are competitive and competent about their nature and how they exercise authority. There will always be gossip and office talk. But I think it's a part and parcel of being a professional. It happens to men as well. With certain women, it's more pronounced, but then doesn't matter. Ultimately, what matters is, like Ms. Shroff said, you be relevant, you be competent, and nothing succeeds like success.
Smriti Irani, you didn't mention the politician was from which party.
That's being reserved for my book.
Come on, Smriti. That's what I'm asking you. Peer pressure from within, because the
No, I
opposition
think
questions
I
to you
think
I'll
that,
come to separately.
I think, Navika, to be fair to everybody, irrespective of which political party they're a part of, like I said, if you're a woman who's competent, if you're a woman who has not only competence, but you're competitive, and you do not mince words in accepting that, yes, I know how to build a successful project, then there's bound to be some ricochet which happens. But even today, as a female politician, I am, when I withstand, let's say, pressure or any kind of impact from a political or verbal spat from the opposition, many a times when there is not meat enough or substance enough in the attack on policy issues, they make it personal. I've been asked many a times, don't you find it discomforting that slurs, unintended jokes, or for that matter, sometimes extremely explicit sexual slurs are thrown at you? Absolutely not. Because those who do it presume that I will wilt away like a flower, and I don't.
Yeah,
I make
you've taken
sure
a few
that
to court.
I have taken much, but I'm of the opinion that this entire backlash was intended to ensure that I lose focus. And that is what I was adamant about not losing. Focus from my work, focus from the outcomes that I was supposed to deliver.
That's the important point. Many people want you to lose your nerve, lose your focus, and that's how they deal with women. Oh, women have to multitask. They don't have that much of an attention span. Kabhi na kabhi, kuch na kuch. Are inko thoda sa humor kar lo. You know, that's the kind of attitude. Have you come across that? Maybe not within your organization, but when you're competing outside, you know, people look at you. Oh, she's a woman, so you know, nothing to really worry about. If it was another man competing with them, they would have looked at it differently.
Well, I don't think I've come across a feeling like that, or even a sense of anything, something like that. But I agree with what Smriti ji says, that when you are in authority, when you have power, and when you exercise that power, a lot of people find it difficult to accept. And that is why they try and sort of sidetrack something or put some other issues on the table to just take your focus away from something. So long as you remain focused, you remain sort of, you know what you want, there is clarity in what you want, and you remain on that track, I think they find it difficult to deal with it. I'm not worried. That's their problem. It's not my problem. I know what I want. How do I want to go about doing it? I will talk to my people. I will lay out a path and follow it. If you don't want to follow it, that's also okay. It doesn't bother me.
So, Smriti Irani, I want to ask you, many people would have thought that after Amethi, you were a giant killer, and politically, possibly women and child development is not something that does justice to the persona of Smriti Irani, who's done such a huge political battle, won it, defeating the Gandhis in their own bastion, coming back. You know, people would have thought that Smriti Irani would be in a ministry which was possibly more important than this? Because as I said, many people will look at issues of women and issues relating or a position as a women and child development minister as औरतों का मंत्रालय. How do you react to something like that?
I think for a prime minister who says that his main political agenda is women-led development, this is the best service that you can give in the best ministry and office.
Is
The
that
fact-
politically correct, or
no,
do you really
absolutely
believe?
not. I have spent 20 years of my public life working for women and children. I, before joining the political organization, was the USAID WHO ambassador to India for the WHO ORS program for children. So there has been a political social legacy that I have left in the same field. And I think for somebody who has worked in that field, to get the position of a cabinet minister to change the policy that you know need tweaking or need detailing is one of the greatest blessings that you can get as a political activist. Insofar as textiles, for that matter, when the pandemic hit our country, one of the greatest challenges before us was the availability of PPE suits. We never had it in our country. We never manufactured a single one. And to have that in a pressure, to have that responsibility given to you, and the faith that Smriti has, she will deliver. I think that's a great takeaway in one's professional life. The kind of confidence your seniors have in you. And today we can proudly say that in 3 months, from zero, we established 1,100 companies in this country which did business worth $1 billion. If there's no other better economic case for females in policy making and positions of administration, I think that is one big case. And personally, I remember when we were undergoing the whole process of establishing PPE manufacturing in the country, there was immense pressure from people who did not want global standards of manufacturing to be set. And it is at that time that the Prime Minister was extremely strong on issues of governance and said that we will not dilute a single international standard. Our ministry will deliver, and we did. So if you ask me to serve your country in one of the most challenging times that humanity has seen is one of the greatest privileges. No matter what your position, as long as you can make a contribution to making your country healthier, stronger, resilient, I think that it's a great blessing that very few Indians have, and I have it. And insofar as giant killer, he was hardly a giant.
ये बहुत कम बोला आपने राहुल गांधी पे. इतना कम तो आपने कभी नहीं बोला राहुल गांधी पे. I want to ask you, since you've been campaigning in West Bengal and you've been brushing up your Bangla, which is very good in any case, I want to ask you, what would you say about Rahul Gandhi not having landed in Bengal at all? For, the first phase of polling is 2 days from now. Bengal aaya nahi. Is it because you're there?
I think that for too long, and now it's a tad bit boring that I keep getting asked questions only about that particular gentleman, as though I have the individual office of responding to everything that he does in his existence. I think politically the Congress party knows that in West Bengal they have absolutely no gains to be made. I think it speaks volumes about their leadership, that they did not stand in support of their own political workers and their own ecosystem within the state of West Bengal. And the fact that this is possibly the first time that in Bengal elections, the Congress, by its very demeanor and that of its political leadership, has accepted defeat before even the first vote is cast.
Well, Pallavi Shroff, I want to ask you, there is a standard definition that normally is attached to women and women in the professional world. If there is a man who sticks to his points, then he's called a no-nonsense man. But if there is a woman who doesn't take nonsense, then they say cantankerous hai.
Aggressive.
Aggressive, cantankerous, thoda dimag garam rehta hai, those kind of things. Have you faced something like that?
I haven't, but I have heard about these things. And, it's just a question of somebody else's mindset. It's not about the woman. It's somebody who can't accept the way we are. It's simple. We know what we want. We know how we want to go about it. So, you listen. If you don't listen, it's a problem. So I think one of the things that we women do exceedingly well is listen. And if a lot of us, when a challenge is thrown at us, it motivates us to do better. And I think that's the real issue. A lot of us, I would say. Some of us will back down, but a lot of us, I'm like sure she has, Smriti ji has accepted every challenge and got motivated to achieve. I have done that. Every challenge thrown at me means I want to, go but one step beyond. And I think that's what keeps motivating us. And when you talk of these work-life balances and things like that, I don't think I even talk about it. If you enjoy what you are doing, you know how to find time for what you want to do.
But that's a question only women get asked. Men never get asked.
Why should we get asked? Why should we get asked, what is your work-life balance mantra? I have no mantra, and I do what I want to do at the time that I want to do. I work hard, I work very hard, 14, 15 hours a day today as well, but that's my choice.
So Smriti Irani, how do you respond to somebody saying कि औरतों को ripped jeans नहीं पहननी चाहिए?
Well, the only way my jeans are getting ripped if I'm trying to fit into my old ones. But I think that we need to, and I've said this many a times on many a platforms, and I'm very candid about it. Irrespective of men, women, transgenders, politicians have absolutely no business talking about how people dress, what they eat, what they do, because ultimately our service is that of policy making and ensuring rule of law. There have been faux pas made by many politicians, men and women, I must here say this. It's not as though these particular positions have only been taken by men. There have been such faux pas or such statements made by men and women, and I think that with growing urgency, there is conversation across our country in all communities that there are certain things which are sacrosanct. And one of them is a woman's right to choose to live the way she wants to live her life and engage with society as she deems fit. As long as you don't break the law, I have absolutely no business telling you what to do.
But you're fine when you say that, these statements have been made by men and women, but you call it a faux pas. I'm saying this is a new...
Because nobody in their enlightened minds would make that statement.
But he's a newly chosen chief minister within 24 hours of taking over as chief minister in the middle of a raging pandemic. The first thing that he chose to speak about was ripped jeans. Does it make you angry? Do you stop becoming a normal person because you're a politician?
No, I think that the challenge for me as a politician is that only women politicians are asked to respond to it.
No, we've asked the question to many men,
not enough. I think it's always the female politicians who are first tweeted to and said, "आप क्या बोलोगे? आपने भी तो jeans पहनी थी." हाँ भैया पहनी थी, अब बहुत मोटी हूँ इसलिए पहन नहीं पा रही हूँ. दूसरा, always a mic is thrust at a female politician and she's asked, "आप बताओ, आपके colleague ने ये किया." My question is, why aren't men asked as ferociously or vociferously as women are? And secondly, like I said, that when women like me in politics or in social positions vehemently state our point of view, why am I to explain somebody else's disposition? Why shouldn't my, let's say, thought process on it be respected enough that, yes, this is what she believes and let's respect her for that?
So, Pallavi Shroff, I want to ask you, India of 2021 is very different from what we saw in the 50s or the 60s. Women have come of age, but there are barriers. Some of us have made the cut possibly because we've been in the field for so long, and we fought our battles and come up the hard way. But there are some of those young ones still fighting out there. And if I even look at some who've put in so many years in service, how many women actually make it to the boardrooms? It's a sad story if you look at the absolute numbers that are coming in. And why is it that these numbers are so low?
I think even if you look at SEBI statistics today, the number of women at the boardroom is abysmal. And it had to be a law had to be enacted for women to come on the board. People don't realize that women think differently. They add so much value to the board. Because I sit on boards of companies, I can see the difference in our thinking, how we raise questions, how we want to know more, and ask some very difficult questions to the promoters. And they have to be ready for it. So at some level, I think, are they even ready for difficult questions that get asked? And I know that we as women, I wouldn't hesitate to ask difficult questions or put forth a point of view very strongly, even record it if it came to it. So I think that's one issue. The mindset, again, is do I have to listen to a woman? That's the average mindset. But there are companies who now realize that's no longer an option for them. They have to listen to us. So they are listening to us. So
I think that what is disturbing, that if a Pallavi Shroff is sitting on a board and she gets a response, do I have to listen to her? Can you imagine the work environment in that company
True.
for women who do not have her professional success? So I think there is a point where we need to even introspect as organizations. And why? Because if you look at today manufacturing, the number of women in Indian manufacturing oscillate between 3% to 12%. In the service sector, we go from around 24% to 27%, which means if you look at progressively how women are taken into positions of employment, wherever there's an entry level, they will find more women as compared to areas which are core areas of finance or, for that matter, engineering. So if you look at the auto sector, the steel sector, you have 3% women. If you look at core engineering, you have only, again, 2 to 3% women. If you look at computer science engineering, you have around 12%. So wherever you feel, and if you speak to most women today, you will find that the next decade, in fact, is going to prove a big challenge. Because most of the jobs in the next decade, at least 70 to 80% of them, will be completely reliant on either science, technology, mathematics, and engineering. And if you look at, as Pallavi said, the position of women in boards is abysmal. My worry is that if you find girls and their learning outcomes with regards to maths and science, especially after grade 8 or grade 10, that becomes a challenge. Because even if you open up the Times of India after the board results are out, you will celebrate the female potential there. They will beat the boys in the 12th standard results. But if you look at their progression into technology institutions or science institutions, it's just barely 22 to 25%. So there have been legal and administrative interventions made, but there has to be still a conscious choice or decision made within communities about positioning more and more women into these spaces. Be it decision making, for that matter, even if you look at academic leadership. Why only boardrooms? Today only 15% of academic leadership in faculties is women.
True.
So how will young girls look upon the whole gender idea when they see a lack of leadership from women in positions that they deserve? Because Niti Aayog took out a report. 57% women in the scientific communities, they presume that they have not received the evaluation that they deemed fit, given their capacities, just because there was gender discrimination. And close to that same number of women let go of promotions because either they have to move cities or they have some family commitment. So the problem is not only legal or political, there is much to be done on the community level on these issues.
So I want to add to what Smriti has just said. When you talk of women and evaluation and how they are perceived, we live in a system that has been set in a way by the men folk. All evaluation is done on the basis of that system without factoring anything that a woman has to go through or the support that she may need. And I'm not saying in a derogatory way or that women need support. Everybody needs support to grow within their own organization. So it's organizational support, or what the government has now said, you have a daycare center or a creche in the offices. I mean, organizations like us started 10 years ago to have a daycare center in our office because we saw so many women. How have we created enabling atmospheres for women to remain in the organization is, I think, a challenge and a question that we all need to ask ourselves. That mindset and the approach has to come from the top. You have to respect, the management has to respect the women, want to develop them, because they are a huge potential. If actually women continued to remain and not drop off at mid-management, they would be earners, breadwinners and fee earners, go back home, money in the house will increase, it helps the economy. There is a whole theory behind why women come into the business or profession or come into the workforce. It will only benefit the country and the economy in terms of, you know, what could be the growth levels. Coming to the board level, people at the board level, promoters will ask 5, 7, 10 of us whether we want to come on boards. We will say, no, we don't want to come because we have enough and more to do. And then they will turn around and tell SEBI, oh, but there is nobody available. There is a whole level of a second tier of very, very professionally able people. Why don't they want to go down that one tier? When you suggest somebody saying, I know so-and-so and she's brilliant, why don't you take her on board? Nahi ji, pata nahi. That's
No,
one
I
word.
have faced this as an administrator. When I walked in, I remember to the first IIT Council meeting, and I'm sure, Navika, by now, all the men in the audience think we are 3 women who are whining about being women. The problem is
Smriti Irani and
genuinely
whining.
I think we are celebrating womanhood.
I think that what ma'am said is absolutely on point from 2 perspectives. It's not only at the SEBI level. I faced it as minister. When I walked into the IIT Council, this has the brightest scientific technology minds in the country in the council. I was the only woman in the room. And it had men like Anil Kakodkar there. And I said, where is the female component? Aap hai? I said, I'm here by the virtue of my office, not because I'm a female scientific leader. And I got the same response, itni hai nahi. And I remember walking out of that meeting and calling Tessie Thomas. And I said, Tessie, could you please now lead the IIT Council? She said, with pleasure. And when I met her, she was crestfallen. She said, nobody ever thought of me before.
So that
So
is,
we
that
have
is
a
the
lot
point I'm
of
making, Smriti Irani and Pallavi Shroff. The point I'm making is that women are there waiting to be recognized, but the recognition is not so forthcoming. For example, let's look at politics. We've been talking about 33% reservation. Neither do we have the belief to say that we don't want reservation. We are capable to be, as equal as
Navika,
men.
there are many who have said that there is no need for it. It is shocking, but I'll make the case for the need for it and how we are committed. And I've said this, that if a government can revoke Article 370, which it pronouncedly said on its manifesto, we are equally committed to 33% reservation.
But
it must
we've
be
seen
said.
the government into its
But
7th year.
it must be said, and it's a government which is still running. The story is not over yet. But I must say this, I will make a case for it, and I'll tell you why. BJP was the first party to make 33% reservation possible within our own organization. So people like me, Nirmala, we received our first organizational positions on the basis of that. So there have been many women, especially on the grassroots, who have never had an opportunity to serve in high offices. Today, if you look at global indices which talk about political empowerment of women, our women serving in panchayats are never recognized internationally. And that is a point that I have picked up as minister time and again on many international platforms. I've said in India, we celebrate the fact that we have 1.3 million women serving in panchayats. No other nation in the world has such a big contingent of women politically serving. Doesn't get recognition. And it is this potential which needs more and more opportunity, because wherever women have been given an equal opportunity to compete, they have done well. And this is about making, enabling an equal opportunity or equal space. But if I just prolong a little bit of what Mr. Shroff is saying, even about evaluation, even after a woman is evaluated and deemed fit to be as competent as a man, the next hurdle comes at the stage of negotiation of contracts and price points. I have known of many celebrated women who are told that there is a man who is equally competent. आपको तो छुट्टी लेनी पड़ेगी, घर में कोई आपका function होगा. If you are young and you are about to contemplate marriage, तो फिर आप अगर थोड़ा सा आपकी salary कम होगी, तो we'll give you a nice contract. Though the position taken outside is that we give equal pay for equal work. So there are many such challenges that are embedded in a woman's professional life. It doesn't stop at evaluation. And we as women, and young women particularly, have been sold this fairy tale that the minute you succeed as a woman, everything is going to become rosy white. No, there is a new conundrum that awaits you after you succeed. It is a never-ending battle.
Well, Smriti
And I'm
Irani,
sorry that I'm breaking-
part of that fairy tale was just sold to us by you. Because you said in your party, there is no such thing. I asked you once
Navika,
again.
Navika, I'm
let
being
me
very
ask you.
candid. If I'm not a person who minces words. If I've had a problem, I would publicly accept that I have
So
been...
let me ask you the question.
That I have been in some way disenfranchised because I was a woman, but I have not.
But I want to ask you this question. At the evaluation
And some of the
level,
toughest battles, they didn't send a man to fight, they sent a woman.
yeah, they sent a woman to fight and you've come out with flying colors. Even so, I want to ask you, is the problem from the people who are evaluating you, who are your seniors, or is the problem from your own peer groups? Because many women have this problem that it is their peer group where the problems actually come up. The level above possibly realize your potential.
But there's a difference between politics and other professions. We are judged by the people of our country.
And there's nobody
It is
in
the
between.
citizen
But if
that
you were
matters.
not given that
Now,
opportunity,
I'm
how
sorry,
would you be
but
assessed?
it is the citizen that matters in politics. And the citizen, I'm blessed, chose me.
Pallavi,
but
I think it's
you're
both.
saying
It is both. People who are at your level at times cannot accept that you are going so well ahead in life. And people above you probably have a mindset quite often. I'm not saying everybody, but quite often will have a mindset, you know, of the suspicion. Can she deliver? Can she do this? And the same questions. She will have a baby, then I have to give 6 months maternity leave, then I have to do this. Oh. You know, and they just cannot conceptualize that a woman can sit at home and work.
No, and I
We've
think-
all worked this 1 year, work 15, 16 hours a day, you know. So I've seen this happen actually where the seniors don't trust the women. Now, they're always skeptical. Sometimes women who are so good, they recognize it, but they will not be given an equal opportunity because there is that inherent bias.
No, but Navika, just
in
to be fair,
2021, if
to
we are
be
talking
fair-
about this, then
to
what
be
about the
fair to
numbers?
since you wanted a candid confession, to be fair, where did I face this problem? I genuinely faced it in the media. When I was a media professional and I was acting in a show, there were men who were positioned and paid better than me in the first year, because by then I had not proved my mettle. And I remember when the contract was to be renegotiated, I said, this is the X salary that I expect. They said, too bad, we will throw you out. I said, too bad, go find yourself another lady to play Tulsi. I negotiated.
With Ekta Ravi Kapoor, you had that problem.
I didn't have a problem with Ekta, but there were men on the table who wanted to negotiate money.
And then?
And then I got what I wanted.
But that happens.
For that to
routinely
happen,
in
for
the
that to
film
happen,
industry as well.
for that to happen, you need two things to happen. One, as Pallavi said, you need to be extremely competent. And two, you need to be confident enough to know that you're talented enough to negotiate hard. It is not possible that you will win every time you negotiate. It is not possible that you will walk away successful. You will be dropped. I was dropped from projects as well for giving birth to a baby. I was doing 3 projects simultaneously while I was doing Ekta's. And I had a male producer who told me, if you work till the last day, we know in television we make tape banks. He said, make tape banks so that you can nurse your baby after 1 month and come back to work. He fired me the day I had my baby and hired somebody else. And I remember my family, I had mortgages to pay, I had loans to pay, and my family said, why are you smiling? I said, because I'm so damn good at my job that that project will shut down. And it did.
Is that confidence or is that just faith in yourself? How do you see this?
It's faith in yourself, and that's very important for women to have. Sorry. I think it's very important for women to have faith in themselves. A lot of women actually lack the confidence in themselves, and with little bit of support from an organization or a mentor, you know, they can go so much more. Why are we afraid to, as Smriti ji said, why are we afraid to ask for a certain thing, a position or salary, whatever, or raise an issue that why am I being treated unequally as compared to a man? Why do I have to work twice as hard to prove I'm half as good? You know?
Sometimes women work harder so that it takes a while for the men to catch up. I'm sorry, but we do.
No, but
Smriti,
But now,
on
Pallavi
a
ji, at least
personal
Navika
note-
knows the next time she has to negotiate a contract, who to call.
Well, MK isn't quite here, so maybe maybe I will. Okay, there are questions coming in from the audience. Birendra Chaudhary, ever your biggest fan, wants to ask you a question. He's my colleague. Yes, Birendra Chaudhary ji.
आप तीनों महिलाओं को नमस्कार, क्योंकि आप तीनों महिलाएं अपने अपने फील्ड में विशिष्टता प्राप्त कर चुके हैं और मैं ही नहीं कह रहा हूं, सब मानेंगे इस बात को। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा है कि वहां पर हमारे आर्मी में 80 महिलाओं का सुप्रीम कोर्ट के आदेश के बाद ही कमीशन्ड ऑफिसर बनाया गया, और वही महिला फिर से सुप्रीम कोर्ट पहुंचती हैं कि हमें मिल नहीं रहा है जो आपने कहा। आधार यह है कि वो कहीं ना कहीं चूक है मेडिकल में। तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट का सुनिए आप लोग, बहुत अच्छा लगेगा, उन्हीं के शब्दों को मैं दोहराऊंगा। क्रिएटेड बाय मेल्स फॉर मेल्स, यानी ये कानून ऐसे बना जो उनके लिए बना, इसलिए विपरीत पक्ष के लिए ये कानून नहीं है, कटाक्ष है। लेकिन सवाल स्मृति जी आपसे है, क्योंकि आप जाइंट किलर हैं, वो तो तगमा आपको लग चुका है। और मैं पढ़ाता भी था, तो जब महिला रिप्रेजेंटेशन की बात जब जब आती थी तो बच्चे हमसे कहते थे कि सर हमारे लोकसभा में 10% महिला क्यों नहीं है, हमसे बेहतर अफगानिस्तान क्यों है, हमसे बेहतर बांग्लादेश क्यों है। सिर्फ पूज्यंते कहने से तो नहीं होगा, अग्रे अग्रे महिला नाम कहने से तो नहीं होगा, सिर्फ किताबों में होगा। तो वो जो जाइंट किलर का जो जज्बा आपके दिल में है और जो आपने दिखाया है, मैं चाहूंगा कि आप उस फ्रंट पे भी ये करें, क्योंकि लोकतंत्र का पूरा डेफिनेशन फेल हो जाता है। क्योंकि लोकतंत्र का अर्थ क्या है? समूहों का संगठन।
So 50%.
आधी आबादी 138 करोड़ में आधी आबादी 15%, क्या यही लोकतंत्र का असली मिरर है?
जवाब दीजिए।
आपको कुछ करना होगा, आपसे ही मैं अपेक्षा करता हूं और आपसे उत्तर भी चाहता हूं। धन्यवाद।
मुझे लगता है 2-3 बातें आपने, क्योंकि प्रश्न नहीं किया, आपने टिप्पणी की है, 2-3 बातें मैं इसमें जोड़ना चाहूँगी। When I was the national president for women's wing of the Bharatiya Janata Party, I had the privilege of providing support and free legal aid with my colleagues to women for ensuring permanent commission in the Indian Army. So I've had that legacy in this country. लेकिन आपने जो अपेक्षा व्यक्त की है कि कुछ करना होगा, कि महिला को उस पॉलिटिकल ऑफिस के लिए किस प्रकार से संघर्षशील महिला को तैयार करना, मेरे जीवन का वो अनुभव जो मैंने महिला मोर्चा के माध्यम से अभी आपको व्यक्त किया आर्मी के संदर्भ में, उसमें महिला और पॉलिटिक्स का भी 1-2 अंश आपको आज सतत देखने को मिलेगा। महिला मोर्चा में मेरे साथ जो साथी थी, मैंने जिनको उपाध्यक्ष बनाया, मीनाक्षी लेखी जी आज वो MP हैं दिल्ली से। महिला मोर्चा में मेरे साथ जो मैंने विद्यार्थी जीवन से, जिनको जीवन में पहली बार संगठन में अपने साथ काम करने का मुझे सौभाग्य प्राप्त हुआ, आशा लाकड़ा ट्राइबल समुदाय से है, झारखंड से, आज रांची की 2 बार मेयर है। तो मुझे लगता है कि आज एक तरफ पॉलिसी की बात है, लेकिन दूसरी ओर समाज में महिला का उस प्रकार से सशक्तिकरण कि वो पॉलिटिकल ऑफिस और लक्ष्य अपने लिए तय करे, और हम लोग संगठन के माध्यम से, समाज में परिवार या समुदाय के माध्यम से महिला को उस लक्ष्य की प्राप्ति में अपनी ओर से समर्थन दें, उसका प्रोत्साहन करें। जैसे कि पल्लवी जी ने कहा, उतार चढ़ाव हर महिला के जीवन का एक अभिन्न अंग है, चाहे वो ब्याह करना हो, चाहे वो बच्चे को जन्म देना हो, लेकिन राजनीति एक पल के लिए भी उसके लिए रुकती नहीं है। तो मैंने जिन दो महिलाओं का उल्लेख किया, उनके जीवन में भी ऐसी कई चुनौतियां आई, लेकिन वो तटस्थ थी कि उनको अपना राजनीतिक लक्ष्य पाना है। तो उस लक्ष्य की प्राप्ति में कहीं उनको हम लोग परिवार में या समुदाय में शेम ना करें, उसका भी एक बहुत बड़ा इम्पैक्ट होता है साइकोलॉजिकली, कि एक महिला अपने आप को इकोनॉमिकली या पॉलिटिकली एम्पावर करे। लेकिन जैसा कि मैंने पहले भी कहा कि ये लक्ष्य की प्राप्ति मात्र राजनीति से नहीं होगी, राष्ट्र नीति से और समाज नीति से होगी। परिवारों को और समुदायों को मिलकर आना पड़ेगा कि अगर एक महिला अपने एम्बिशन को प्रतिबिंबित करती है तो उसको एम्बिशियस होने के लिए भी शेम ना करें, बिकॉज दैट इज अपार्ट फ्रॉम बीइंग असर्टिव द अदर issue that women are blamed about. She's too ambitious. When they say she's too fast, they mean she's too ambitious. There are times when people tell you, इतना तो कर लिया और क्या करना है. So many women face this. There are some who are smiling in the audience जिन्हें सुना है अपने अपने घरों में कहीं पे कि और कितना करना है. तो मुझे लगता है कहीं ना कहीं the issue is not to shame them for their dreams, not to shame them for their convictions or their ambitions.
Absolutely.
I have one more thing to add to what she's saying. What women, we as women who have been able to do something, we need to be the role model for them, and we need to be able to encourage a group of people who can be like a network or a support to women who want to come up. So I think
Very
what
true.
women truly lack
Successful
is
women
the
can
network.
be a support
No,
system.
but why only
But why do we
successful?
need-
No,
but
no,
why
but
do we
I'm
need
saying
support?
But I'm
we
saying
should
why
lead the
only
way.
successful women? Why would you discount men from wanting to support young girls achieve their goals? They are fathers, they are brothers, they are friends who want to support women achieve their ambitions. Why not make them a part of the process as well? क्योंकि मैं थक गई हूँ सुनते सुनते हर बार महिलाओं से पूछा जाता है आप महिलाओं के लिए क्या करेंगे. एक भी पुरुष से कभी नहीं पूछा जाता आप पुरुषों के लिए क्या करेंगे. तो
Very
अगर
true.
लड़कियों को और सशक्त करना है तो उसमें पुरुष की भी उतनी ही भागीदारी हो सकती है जितनी महिला की.
मैं आपसे एक और सवाल पूछना चाहूँगी और आप फिर मुझे इस पर ज़रूर कटाक्ष करेंगी, लेकिन सवाल बहुत अहम है. मी टू का जो ये एक इशू रेज हुआ था जिसमें कई औरतें सामने आईं. Why this is topical is because there was a former minister, there is a member of your party, who has lost the case against Priya Ramani in the lower court, has gone in appeal. I want to ask you from a point of view as a woman, a professional woman, and a woman who's been in the media, and now the Women and Child Development Minister. Priya Ramani has been accused of defamation for just pointing out to a Me Too incident that involved this gentleman. I want to ask you, is it an uphill task, because this legal battle has now gone from a lower court to a high court, and then it will possibly go elsewhere, because depending on how much staying power or economic power an individual has to drag this case. Where do you stand on this entire issue?
I think I'm the only person who's publicly spoken while in office on it. One of the
appeal.
rare cabinet ministers who's spoken right from day one on it till this day. And I'm absolutely clear on this. If there's a violation of law, it is a woman's right to pursue justice. There can be no debate on it.
And defamation is the best way to try
I'm
and-
saying that defamation, I think that not many remember. Since the year 2012, I've been fighting a defamation case in Patiala House. To this day, this is 2021, and I have not gotten justice. But I'm fighting nonetheless. I go stand in court with other criminals and convicts, waiting because a gentleman made sexist remarks on a television debate. Don't people like you call him even now on television debates? You do. Can I accuse you of supporting somebody in Me Too? I can.
Well, he hasn't been on for a long time. but-
Doesn't matter, but the fact that he continued to be supported and there was no outcry. So my question is our outrage dependent on the political color of who's speaking? There has been a gentleman who's speaking, who's from the opposition party in the state of Tamil Nadu. आजकल महिलाओं के हिप्स अच्छे नहीं हैं क्योंकि वो विदेशी गाय का दूध पीती हैं. Is there an outrage anywhere? Like ripped jeans? There isn't. So is our outrage politically convenient?
Good question.
I think the Me Too movement, if you ask me, was just waiting to happen. And I'm glad that it has happened. How long are women going to take the kind of statements that we hear, either it's from the chief minister here or a potential MLA or an MP? You know, I think that somewhere we have to call it a day, stand up for our rights and our self-respect. This is more when you stand up for your self-respect. And I think it was good that she stood up. I think I respect her for being able to stand up to all the pressure she must have been subject to. So I think it's a good thing. I think somewhere we need to stand for ourselves. And for our self-respect.
I filed a case against, got promoted.
It's self-respect.
Because he...
So you defeated his boss?
Yes, I did. And that is the message I sent to every man from that particular political party. That every time you hit me with a sexist slur, I will make sure that your boss loses his deposit next time.
That's a warning going out to Mr. Rahul Gandhi. But on a personal note, I want to turn to both of you for a personal experience. And I want to ask you, Smriti, everybody knows that you're an achiever. Everybody knows that you're a trailblazer. You know, you've set many records by being the first woman to do this, that, and many things. Has there been a particularly frustrating woman kind of a feeling that because I'm a woman, I'm not being allowed to do this, or I'm being held back from doing something that I could have?
No.
Not as
never.
You know,
I have
a daughter
always...
or a wife or a mother?
No. I have been very, very adamant from day one that I bear the consequences of every action that I take. And I have been very blessed that I have had a family which understands that, which respects that, even as a child. I guess because I have a firebrand mother. And I think the change begins from that woman in the house who stands up for others along with herself.
And in your married life, also the support continues to be at the same level?
Absolutely. I think that one of the biggest turning points was when I had my first child and I was decidedly overwhelmed. And I said, maybe I cannot carry on doing a job and looking after a baby because my job entailed 18 hours of work, which is backbreaking. And raising a child alone is not a joke because I had no house help. And my husband said, मैंने नौकरी नहीं छोड़ी, मेरा भी बच्चा हुआ है. And I think that is the sense of equality that you get, of equity that you get. That life will not be a fairy tale because we have fed many a girls that you marry the right man, you get the right job, you have the right paycheck, and you're all set. No. New challenges begin even then. The comfort that I draw is the fact that God has been kind that none of my decisions have been wrong. That I have faced failures, but none of them have burdened me enough to never rise again.
That's important. And Pallavi, for you, in your personal life?
I don't think there's ever been a moment I've sort of felt, oh, because I'm a woman, I couldn't do something. Never. I think it's always been, see, as Smriti said, there are new challenges every day in every phase of life and every day. But that only motivates you to do. But I've never felt inhibited or felt that I couldn't do something because I was a woman. Never. In fact, I remember my husband telling me the day I started practice and traveling, she says, you are a professional, you travel for work, learn to be self-sufficient. And I thought that was amazing. Since that day, I think I am completely self-sufficient in what I have to do for my profession, even at home and even outside.
And children respect you more when you're a working woman?
Absolutely. They've seen me
I
working.
disagree with that. I disagree because I think that that is doing a great disservice to women who choose to stay back at home. Should a child value more because you have a bank account? Should a child value more because you're a professional? Can't a child just love you because you're just mom? So I think that to draw that line that women will be more respected within their families because they are earning, that means, that indicates that relationships in your families are judged on the basis of money and power.
Smriti ji, I don't think the children respect you because you earn anything. I don't think that's in their mindset. I think they respect you for the fact that you're a professional, that you're doing a good job.
Possibly.
You have the self-confidence, you have the respect of the people around you. I think that's what they'll
And
see
yet
and
you're
respect.
able to give
Money
them the
is
time,
last on
attention
their
and the
mind.
love.
Possibly, but I would still say it is equally tough to give up on your own dreams and ambitions and dedicate your life to your family. It's equally tough to do
We
that.
let the jury be out on that, on which way women want to decide, because ultimately it's their decision. And Smriti Irani, I'm getting questions from the audience that the design on the border of your sari seems to resemble the Howrah Bridge. Is that, is that really true? And is that how you decide the battle for West Bengal?
So it's from a young lady called Paroma, and she said that Didi, and by the way, Didi is not a name affixed to only one political entity. She said that she would like me to support her work. So as a consumer, this is how I support her work.
Is it Bengali?
Yes, it's by a Bangla designer, female designer, and it's definitely Howrah. And that is why I can say, Banglate, Didi যাচ্ছেন আর বিজেপি আসছে।
বিজেপি আসছেন, হাওড়া ব্রিজ এসে গেছে দিল্লিতে, এখন মমতা দিদি দেখলেন এখানে স্মৃতি
And
দিদি আছে।
Times now needs to notice that your Bangla channel can be efficiently be led by Navika Kumar.
Well, your guru, you just mentioned him. Mr. Nitin Gadkari is here as well.
I must say this, when I was serving president of Mahila Morcha, he was the national president. And I remember walking into his office because I think I was barely 30 or 32. And this is the national president. And I went in to take directions. That's are we to particularly perform in a particular state or do a particular policy a particular way. He just looks at me and he says, do not come into this office unless you're in trouble and you can't solve it yourself and you need me. Till then, do what you deem best for women in our country and our organization. So that is the legacy that he left as a leader for me.
Well, on this big panel for women, really breaking the glass ceiling, Mr. Nitin Gadkari, you find a mention, and I think compliments to you and the leadership of your party, which has been able to bring out the best in the women in the party, and of course, Pallavi Shroff. Who doesn't know what an achiever she's been? Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us on this panel, and thank you, Smriti and Pallavi Shroff, for making this such a memorable discussion, debate, call it what you will. Thank you.